I made a complete fool of myself in front of the police.
Play the theme music. Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alan and I'm here with the ever bashful Adam.
I've gone completely red, mate, and it's not because I'm standing directly under the hole in the ozone layer.
Bashful, the most nervous, the most scared, perhaps the weakest of all those 7 Dwarfios, and I've described you as being a bit like him. What's been going on?
There's just been a few things that have happened recently, mate, over the last, say, week or so, and there have been interactions with a number of people, and they've made me all shy and go into my shell.
I don't like to hear that because I think of you as quite an outgoing man. Probably, actually, socially wise, this might be a surprise to some of the listeners. Adam is by far the more outgoing member of Tripology. If you were to meet us in a hostel, you might see me slumped in a corner playing chess, while Adam would be going to each member of the hostel and introducing himself and going, yeah, that's my mate over there. What, the one slumped in a corner with dribble in his beard? Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny you should mention that, actually, because I was at the bank earlier trying to open a bank account. And naturally, we started speaking about the podcast because they asked me if I was employed. I said, yes, I am employed. Thank you very much. And I showed the lady, the bank manager, a few of our reels. And you come across incredibly well on the reels, mate. I've got to say, she said, God, he sounds like such a character. He's amazing. I said, he is amazing.
You should meet him in real life where his character is slightly more morose.
I said, you play chess? No, but even, mate, something even just an hour ago, right, I came back into my hotel room where I now am and walked in after being out for, the afternoon. I walked in and there was a crisp white towel on my bed. I mean, it was like brighter than the sun. And I thought to myself, did I do that? Did I fold the towel like a swan? Doesn't seem like something I would do.
Well, no, hotels do that sometimes.
But I hadn't asked for room service. I deliberately, booked it for a couple of days. So I just wasn't expecting the bed sheets or a new towel or anything like that to be changed. So it took me by surprise. And I started to kind of like questioning my own memory.
Yeah.
And I nipped downstairs just to talk to reception to see what was going on, make sure I wasn't going mental. I walked up to the reception desk and I said, excuse me, just a quickie. And the lady behind the desk,
certainly not,
probably in her early 50s, she said, oh, a quickie? Okay, then, sure. And I just went so red and embarrassed. I just realised what I just said. And there obviously is this parallel universe in which that turns into a porn film and I go behind the counter.
There is, yeah. There's many parallel universes. I think in many ways that was probably a pivotal moment in your life that sparked so many parallel universes that right now you're living in a very plain timeline indeed. There was one parallel universe where she went, I can't do that, sir, but what I can do is make swan towels, and summoned a sort of fleet of sartorial swans to your... So basically it turned out that it was her that made the swan towel, I presume.
She said it's absolutely possible that one of the housekeepers just came into your room and changed your towel.
Yeah, I've got to say, have you ever stayed in a hotel before? Because that's not that uncommon.
No, but the crazy thing is not the fact it was a swan. I've seen that, but it was the fact that there was a brand new towel in what was a very messy room that I didn't remember ordering, or it was just, I wasn't expecting anyone to be in the room at all. And then all of a sudden it was like someone had just tiptoed in, placed a towel. It's like when someone changes one thing and what you're wondering whether anything's different or not. It just spun me out a little bit, that was all. But it was a nice interaction.
Oh, right, I see. So the room wasn't like turned down. It was just the towel.
Exactly, yeah. The room looked absolutely identical, which was, I tidied it up for the show, but the room, it was a bit of a tip, I've got to be honest, because I wasn't expecting any guests. Certainly not the lady on reception. But yeah, it was good, mate. It was really good. But yeah, a few things have happened, one of which I'll tell you about now, and it does involve my beloved vehicle, and I made a big fool of myself in front of a very nice policeman.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to hear the story. I'm no stranger to the New Zealand police. Stopped for it being too rainy to drive. Stopped because we forgot to switch the headlights on once. I've interacted with them, and of course, I lived in a crack den, so they'd be around every week, checking for crack. But, so I have seen my fair share, but what was your experience like?
Hang on a minute. We can't just gloss over that. Too rainy to drive.
Yeah, well, I mentioned it on an episode a couple of weeks back that me and my friend went on a road trip and a cop pulled us over and said, "You can't be getting out east today, mate. It's too rainy."
Yeah. I mean, that's very conscientious, I think, of the police officer. That's very, caring. But in this case, it involved drink driving. And
oh dear.
Yeah. And the story will unfold, of course, over the next few minutes. But I just want to talk about my lovely car that I returned just yesterday. It's still very sensitive, very sore subject for me because I did fall in love with that thing. The lovely Lulu, number plate was LUU, so I dubbed her Lulu. And she became a very good friend of mine, and obviously somewhere I slept and had some amazing experiences with my cousin, who unfortunately has now gone home. But I want to preface this by saying I've driven in probably 15 countries, different road vehicles.
Yeah.
Over the last, well, I hate to date myself, but, more than 15 years now. And I have never, ever once been stopped to be breathalyzed.
Okay. Well, I hope this story doesn't involve you drink driving, because I think it's one of the stupidest things a person can do. I know that it goes on. I know that it happens all the time, but it was really not good. It puts everyone in danger.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not sure if I was caught drink driving, I'd just be all chipper and announcing it on the podcast.
I was sweating bullets for a second, Adam. I got to be honest.
No. It'd be in the Patreon section.
Yeah.
But just it goes to show, right, how sort of on it the police here are, because I've been stopped in the last 3 weeks. I've been stopped 3 times to be breathalyzed.
Wow.
Which is a lot. I mean, I've become somewhat of a professional.
It says a lot about your driving.
No. These are at cop stops. These are at, roadblocks where they're stopping every single car for them to be breathalyzed. It's a systematic type thing that happens, and I guess it's just to make sure that people stay safe on the roads. But the interesting thing here is the rules and regulations. Now, I know that in New Zealand you can have a little drink and then you can drive. I think the same is in the UK, varying amounts. And it also depends on the sort of build you are and how long ago you ate and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to read off for anyone who's interested, because road trips around New Zealand are a huge part of the culture here, and certainly something that people do on a regular basis. They even come to New Zealand specifically for that. So it is important that you know the rules.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't mind, Alan, I am going to read these out. It's going to be a rare piece of information on the podcast.
Okay, if you're sat at home, you're thinking about drink driving, let Adam persuade you not in the only way he knows how, with legislation. Let's go.
Right, so the New Zealand legal alcohol limits for driving. The law says you must not drive if the amount of alcohol in your blood or breath exceeds certain age-related limits. These limits are, if you're under 20, there is a 0 alcohol limit if you are under 20. So basically, if you're under 20 and you're driving, you cannot have any alcohol whatsoever.
Yeah, not a sip of wine. You can't chew any alcohol-flavored gum. You can't even have those little chocolates that have rum in it. Just stay away. Stop it.
Yeah, it's not good. That means that if you drive after consuming even one drink, you can be charged with drink driving. That's pretty black and white. I quite like that.
Yeah.
Now, if you're over 20, you must not drive if you've had more than 250 micrograms of alcohol per litre of breath, or more than 50 milligrams of alcohol per 100 millilitres of blood.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Sensible legislation based on evidence-based, science-backed research.
Yeah. You can be disqualified, given a fine on the spot, all this sort of stuff, which is obviously going to make your time incredibly well, it's just going to be awful, but you are also putting yourself and other people at danger. There's absolutely no excuse, in my opinion, to drink drive.
Well, that's it. I believe in free liberty, mate. I think, as long as the only person you're harming is yourself, you should be able to make smart choices as long as you are smart enough to do so. But with drink driving, of course, you're putting other people at risk, innocent pedestrians, other drivers, people who have just gone to a local shop and get into real trouble when you come careering down the road in your drunk drive-mobile. So not good. Don't do it. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a very serious topic. It is horrendous. Absolutely don't do it. There's no way that you can make an excuse for it or justify it. But it does happen. Where I was living in Canada, it's rife. where we are in New Zealand, I'm sure it happens, which is why the police are so hot. Now, you mentioned the word smart, making smart decisions. That word can't be used, given my reaction to being breathalyzed for the first time when I was driving down the road.
Did you breathe in instead of out?
It was probably even more stupid than that, mate. So there I am. I've picked up the car. This is only day 2, by the way. We're just outside of Auckland. We turn around a corner and there we see a huge roadblock, loads of police, the cars are lined up, they're pulling people over left, right and centre. A few people have been stopped and are now out of the car, and I start sweating. Now, it's not because I've had a drink. I hadn't had a drink. But it's just, there is something that happens when you see, authority, military or the police, where you already feel like you've done something wrong. I don't know if you'd concur with that. I don't know if you would, you just know that you haven't done anything wrong at all. So why is there a reason to worry, right?
Right. Yeah. I always feel a sense of glee, like they're pulling me over and I ain't done nothing wrong. So search away, baby.
Well, anyway, we pull up and I thought I've got this in the bag. No problem at all. I had the opportunity to have a drink earlier that day and decided not to. And I was so thankful that I decided not to have a drink, because at this point I hadn't read the rules. I hadn't digested them.
Oh, you thought you could get away with a little tipple. No.
Yeah. And anyway, we pulled up, wound down the window. A lovely guy. He said to me, hello, mate, how are you? I said, yeah, good, thanks. He said, have you had a drink today? I said, no, I haven't. He said, all right, fantastic. Well, if you could just count to 10. And he put the breathalyzer up to my mouth. And then I waited a few seconds. And he said, can you count to 10? I said, yeah, I did. He said, no, can you count to 10 out loud? Do you do it in your head? And I said, oh shit, yeah, because of the breath thing. You want me to breathe into the thing? And he was like, yeah, that'd be great. Are you sure you haven't had a drink? And I was like, I haven't. And because I was talking into the breathalyzer, then, I passed, and obviously...
Wait. So you don't have to blow into the breathalyzer. You just count to 10, and the aspiration made by counting is enough for it to detect the alcohol limit.
All they do now, the police, certainly in New Zealand, there's a new piece of technology which looks very similar to a breathalyzer. It's like a small dictaphone or something like that. They hold it up to your mouth and they just ask you a few questions, and the aspiration will ensure that there's some sort of detection there, and you're allowed to go on your way if you pass, obviously. But it was...
Wow. So did you have a conscious thought about why you thought he wanted you to count to 10 before you did it?
No, I think I was just so wrapped up in the moment. He said, could you count to 10? I didn't even think for 1 second that he must want me to count to 10 out loud, because he said it so quick. Like what he was saying to me was in quick succession. I didn't really have time. I thought like you, I would have to blow onto something, because I thought that's how breathalyzers worked.
You're like, can you count to 10? This is one of those old crank breathalyzers. I'm just going to wind it up, and in a minute I'm going to ask you to blow into it.
I wouldn't have been surprised if he was like, look, mate, you've passed, but we're going to have to take you down to the station to do some blood tests.
Yeah. Well, I'm very proud of you for obeying the rules. I'm very thankful that we all are in agreement. Don't drink and drive. And it's pertinent because we've got a lot of travellers doing road trips. And I know a lot of travellers as well having a little drink in Southeast Asia and hopping on a moped. So don't do that either.
Yeah, it's difficult. That's obviously the message that we want to send out, and what we believe in. I don't even know how you can navigate that, because the two things, not that they come hand in hand, but they absolutely happen in the same place, don't they? There is lots of drinking when you go abroad, when you backpack. Obviously, drinking is a huge part of the culture, and renting motorbikes or scooters and driving is also a huge part of the culture. So it's a tough one, mate. I don't really know how to avoid it, apart from just saying to people, you've got to be as careful as possible and be as smart as possible.
Yeah, I think with like alcohol and travel, I think a lot of travelers like go hand in hand with developing this odd dependence on alcohol, and there's so many like travel hubs that it's just alcohol every day, right? Southeast Asia is known for its parties, for its drinking, and it's also a place in which people kind of get their first vehicle. I bought my first motorbike in Southeast Asia, and it's just part of the culture there. So it's a time where you have to really have your head switched on and consider, is it worth it? obviously there's been cases in the news and the media recently about, free drinks and people getting into awful situations with high alcohol content and methylene and all that sort of stuff. So I just think with alcohol in general, be a little bit careful when you're traveling.
Yeah. Yes, I've made my fair share of mistakes. I remember one time when I was in Koh Tao and, it's 5 o'clock in the morning after a big night out and...
you hopped on a bike?
And I don't know, a hot girl in a bar said, "I've got a quad bike. Do you want to jump on the back?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go to the beach or whatever." And it happens. It happens. We've all made those mistakes, but thank goodness nothing has happened to me. And I almost felt like after that breathalyzer thing, the next police stop I went to, which was only a few days after that, I thought, I already know the drill here. I'm going to nail it. So there I was, ready to count to 10 out loud, and they asked me a completely different series of questions.
You all proud of yourself, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Loud enough for you?
Yeah. The policewoman said, "Excuse me, mate, can you just say the first line of your address?" I said, "Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I live in a very, very big apartment block.
Yeah.
When I first arrived in New Zealand, of course, I'd had that mugging in Johannesburg and I was crashing on a friend's sofa for a bit. And some of her housemates, she was out at work, they were absolutely drunk and they desperately wanted to go and get a packet of cigarettes. And they were like, "Oh, Alan, you jump in and navigate." And I did. And I regretted it so much. They were so drunk. They were careering all about. It was like such an absolute mess. And I wanted to be anywhere but in that car. Sometimes social pressure and pliability just forces you into situations, but doesn't force you, right? You've always got a choice. And it really is a mess. So just be careful out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult, mate, to get it right. And I think that maybe this touches on something that we have spoken about in the past when you are backpacking. And that's kind of that you feel like rules back home don't apply to you. I know that we've had conversations about that in the past. You would never do that in your own country, I don't think. I mean, maybe in extreme circumstances there are people that have, but I just feel like certainly backpacking around places like South America and Southeast Asia, we feel sometimes like we can bend the rules a little bit more than we otherwise would, and I don't think that's a great thing.
Not a great thing at all. There you go, Tripological public service announcement. We'll think on that during a brief meditation break.
Alan, we should make a place where fans of the show can listen to episodes, read articles, and maybe contact us.
Done it.
What?
Tripologypodcast.com.
Oh, should we put a link in the description?
It's already there.
You are good.
Like a number being passed over in the mind of a sober driver, allow your conscious mind to return into your brain as we continue. I want to hear more about driving stories, you beautiful, sober, vehicular man.
Well, mate, there's something that you're able to do with a car that you're not able to do without one, and that is pick up hitchhikers.
Yeah, pick up those hitchhikers, baby. Have you been doing that?
I've been trying to do it, proactively. I've been scouting around, curb crawling, looking for...
All right, are you a hitchhiker? No, I'm just walking around. All right, get in.
Get in the back. No, that's so funny. Oh, are you a hitchhiker? Oh, can you imagine it? Can you imagine being asked that question by the side of the road? Are you a hitchhiker?
Excuse me, are you a hitchhiker?
Oh, creasy, mate. That is so funny. What a chat line that'd be.
I know. Well, go on. So it's not been that. You've been waiting until you got visual confirmation that they're definitely a hitchhiker.
I've lost all composure. I'm actually sweating. I found that so funny. Just the thought of me crawling around, going super slow along the side of the road, just shouting out the window, "Hey, are you a hitchhiker?" Because I've got a car.
Are you a hitchhiker? Because I got a travel podcast. I'm looking for interesting stories.
Mate, how good would it be, though? Alan, think about it. How good would it be carpooling? You drive around with the microphones and the camera going, and you say, "Look, I'll pick you up, but just so you know, you're going to be on my channel."
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's you're essentially just an Uber driver offering free rides and making content out of it.
I think people would be up for that. I think that's quite a cool idea.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, look, I even tried, and this is because it's happened to me. When I returned the car, I had to return the car to the airport, which, as you know, is about a 30-minute drive from Auckland. Now, the city.
You got to take the Sky bus, haven't you, to get back into the city, and it's an expensive old trip.
Well, I don't know how much did it cost when you were here?
$30, something like that.
$30, and it's gone down. It's $20.
Oh, but yeah. New Zealand, of course, reverse inflation. The only country in the world. It'll be $10 next year.
That's so funny. Yeah, so anyway, it's quite expensive, right? So I thought, hang on, I'm going from Auckland over to the airport anyway, or surrounds. What would be really nice is if I just whiz past that very well-known bus stop, the airport shuttle bus stop, and see if anyone just wants a bloody ride. And I tried to get down to the bus stop, but they basically sectioned it off and put barriers there, and no cars can go down apart from buses and taxis. And I thought, oh, you pesky bastards, stopping people like me. It must be a bloody rarity. I mean, I'm not sure whether are you guys going to the airport? The people would go, yeah.
Excuse me, you guys hitchhikers.
But you can't even do a nice thing in this day and age. People are so bloody suspicious. But anyway, I did pick up a hitchhiker. That's where this is going. All right. And it was from Christchurch. Have you been to Christchurch?
Yeah.
Yeah? Like it?
I stayed in a prison in Christchurch. There's a hostel that was a converted massive prison complex, and they'd made it into, each cell had a few dorm beds and all that sort of stuff. It was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. How'd you get in here? Drink drive?
Picking up hitchhikers.
And yeah, anyway, so I drove out of Christchurch. I had a pretty long drive all the way to Picton, which is where you get the ferry from the South Island, top of the South Island, over to Wellington. And I drove past a lady who was holding a sign. Now, the word on her sign said Lethfield, and that is a town that actually isn't that much further north. So I had to dive into a lay-by, did a quick Google on my phone to make sure that I was going the right way for her, saw that it wasn't anywhere near as far as where I was going, but was in the right direction. Chucked a Yui, then another Yui came up beside her and said, yeah, I'm happy to give you a lift. Absolutely.
I'm really coming out of left field here, love, but are you a hitchhiker by any chance?
That'd be awful, wouldn't it? And I was like, yeah, sure, you're hitchhiking, get in. She was like, I'm not hitchhiking, nope. not for you, not today.
Yeah. No, is it trying to hide the sign behind her back? Okay, well, how was the experience for both of you?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I felt it's just felt so good to be able to offer that, I think, because we'd been shown so much generosity and kindness when we were in Pakistan. And I've done, like, I wouldn't say loads of hitchhiking, but I have hitchhiked in Malaysia, France, tried to in Macedonia, over to Greece. That'll be a story for another episode. Didn't go too well, unfortunately. And then, yeah, of course, Pakistan with you, mate. We didn't see any, actually, in Oman, did we? But there is a culture of hitchhiking in New Zealand, and you do see quite a few people do it.
Much of my hitchhiking experience has been with you. I have hitchhiked a couple of times without you, but I like to use you, as aforementioned, as kind of like a buffer, social buffer. My ideal hitchhiking scenario is that I thumb a ride, get in, put you in the front, and then let you absorb all the social obligations while I hide in the back seat, trying not to be noticed.
Playing chess on your phone.
Yeah. Me and you when we were in Banff together, we thought, we're a couple of guys, let's pay it forward. We have a car. We're on podcast business. So it was a nice trip that was being covered. And we went to a bus stop that was running shuttles from a hostel into town. And we said, as we were driving past, anyone want to jump in? And it was very, very difficult to find someone willing. Yeah. Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I think when it's so easy like that, maybe it's, people just would prefer to err on the side of caution. I think that kind of culture now, people are much better off saying no than they are getting in and then regretting it. But
yeah, hitchhiking can present a scary scenario, can't it? I mean, you're like engineering a scenario when you're in a stranger's car.
Yeah, and you know what? That wasn't the case at all, because the lady who jumped in my car, I noticed immediately, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying that, she's an awesome woman, by the way, and we'll stay in touch for a long time, I'm sure. We had an amazing chat the entire way. It's probably about 5 hours, the entire journey. And there was none of that, really. We just felt very comfortable, and I made the silly decision, again, this is me being embarrassed and quite bashful. I noticed she was French, and a lot of French people I've spoken to over the years, they say that they cannot hide the fact they're French because they are unable to shift the accent.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a few French friends I know, they don't like their accent when they speak English, but
that is a French thing that, like, almost universally, French people feel like there's an obligation to speak without an accent, but that is largely impossible. And also, I think it's nice to retain your European accent or wherever you're from whilst speaking English. It's part of the beautiful diversity of being able to speak English, I think.
Yes, yeah, I would agree. And I also think, I love the French accent. I really do. When not just in French, but also in English. So it was quite easy to pick up that she was French. And then this little part of my brain, for some reason, said, "Oh, do you mind if we speak in French? Because I'd like to practice my French." And then she switched into French, and we did the entire journey, 5 hours, and we covered a lot of subjects, some interesting stuff, and I was put to the test, mate. It was really, really difficult.
Yeah, but I've experienced French people often, think you're from France at first, don't they?
Yeah.
And then they find out you've got no manners and they realise you're from England. But up until the point where they get to know you, they think you're French.
Yeah, it's usually, I'm blushing now because it makes me so happy when people say that. But I've even had a chat, I think in the last week, where I spoke to someone who was French for about 10 minutes in English, right, with my voice. And then I said a few words in French and they said, "Oh, sorry, you're French. I didn't realise it." And they were French. And then we had a little conversation in French. I said, no, I'm not French. I'm English. And they were like, "Oh," and all confused. So it happens quick, mate. It's just the accent. It really is the accent that gets me into trouble because my accent's pretty close to a native French accent, but my vocabulary obviously is lacking. So the drive was really fantastic. I mean, it was so enjoyable, and to put my French to the test and have some really really eye-opening conversations, actually, one of which I would like to share with you because I think it's quite thought-provoking.
Okay, I'll be her, shall I?
No, I'm gonna do both parts, and then I'm gonna get your opinion.
Okay, what am I, the fucking seatbelt then?
No, it's just she won't mind me sharing this, I'm sure. But it is quite an interesting observation.
Yeah,
she took her nephew to India, right? And this was like a wonderful trip. She's very well travelled. She's hitchhiked. She's done loads of really cool stuff all around the world. And as a gift to her nephew, she took him to India.
Right.
Now, when we were talking about India and the fact that we, spent 6-7 months there last year or whatever it was, I used the words overstimulating and that it's almost overwhelming and you've got things to look at, all the, smells, lights going off, people in your face, animals in the road. I mean, wherever you turn, there's something going on, right? Almost all the time, especially if you're in Mumbai.
I agree, yeah.
She said she feels exactly the same way. Now, it's not necessarily a negative, but it is very stimulating and sometimes exhausting. But she said that her nephew, who is significantly younger, obviously, didn't really get affected like that. And perhaps the reason for that is that he is of the generation that has grown up with things like TikTok and Instagram and gaming on this sort of level that we're seeing now. And the fact that those mediums and types of media are so intense and overstimulated. TikTok, for example, it's just difficult to watch because you don't know where to look. There's stuff popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that was the observation that he wasn't really overstimulated by India or wasn't fazed by how much was going on there. Probably because he's grown up with these types of social media and whatever else. And I thought that was really interesting, the psychology behind it.
Yeah, I mean, something to be said for the neuroplasticity of youth as well. They're just more adaptable maybe in certain situations. I imagine there's a diminishing returns as you get older of what culture shocks you. If you take a 60-year-old who's never left the UK and plop them down on the busy streets of Mumbai, it's probably going to cause more damage than if you take a 5-year-old and just as long as they've got a parental guardian with them, they're probably going to fit in much more and sort of to start to piece together because they're still forming their worldview. But I do agree with you. I mean, we're living in a very ping-pong-esque online world of dopamine kind of thievery. So something like Indian streets might not be that much of an unusual thing for a young man.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Maybe we'll get some psychologists on at some point. But I guess let's round off this episode by just asking the question. I think I already know your answer. Pro hitchhiking, against hitchhiking?
I love hitchhiking. I think that it's be safe when you're hitchhiking. I like hitchhiking with a friend, usually Adam, because I think if you're two people, it just feels much more safe and relaxed. So that's a barrier of entry to me that I overcome with friendship. I think if you, at your comfort level, I think hitchhiking is a great thing. I think whenever you have a car, you should be smart, but also try and be kind. And hitchhiking, picking up a hitchhiker might be part of that. And likewise, if you feel safe to do so, stick your thumb out. I think we should bring back a resurgence of that culture if we can do that safely, because what a cool thing that used to happen. And then unfortunately, the media really went after it because of a couple of things that happened. Why did they do that? Is it because genuinely it became a very, very unsafe thing to do in an otherwise unsafe world? Or could it be that they wanted people to pay for taxis? Who knows? Be safe, be safe and be smart, but also have fun and hitchhike. Why not?
Yeah. And I think I'll say to you and the listener what I said to her when she got in the car. And that was that me stopping and allowing you to get in my vehicle and me dropping you off, in a couple of hours, wherever your destination is, it doesn't change my day. It doesn't change my journey at all, but it greatly impacts your day. So, I just thought about how much I could help her and the fact it was of absolutely no bother to me. So,
well, surely it improved your journey, if anything.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was a net positive all round, absolutely. But I could have easily driven past and my journey would have been roughly the same in terms of my expenditure and the...
Right.
Yeah.
Pragmatically.
Yeah, but...
I love the fact, you being here doesn't change my day at all, love, to be honest. I might as well just put a sack of spuds in the seat of my car for all the impact it's having on my social experience.
No, I didn't mean it like that way. I obviously appreciated it. I would much rather have a hitchhiker than not. But you get what I mean in terms of the way my journey unfolded. I was going in the same direction regardless, but I helped her out and I changed her day. And I think if that's the sort of mindset you're in, what can you do to help someone else in their day? Maybe we'd all do a nice thing each day.
Absolutely. Send us your thoughts on hitchhiking or your best hitchhiking stories. Go to tripologypodcast.com and use the form there to write to me and Adam. Once I got into a car and it turned out it was a sort of semi-aquatic vehicle. We went down to the bottom of the ocean to see the Mariana Trench. Stories like that, send them tripologypodcast.com. We've got an Instagram account at tripologypodcast to catch up with little highlights from the show and little extra bits along the way.
And then we're going to shoot off to the Patreon section, Lost and Found, patreon.com/tripologypodcast, where Alan's going to tell us about a crazy conflict he witnessed on a bus.
Oh, ever so harrowing it was. I'm going to tell you that now. Let's go. Thank you for listening.
We'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.